I'm taking my hat off. There's so many comments of people saying like, yeah, the Wet Bandits are reviewing a movie again.
Yeah, but but this is an appropriate one for the Wet Bandits to be reviewing.
Sure.
It makes total sense. I wish it were raining outside right now, actually.
I love those comments though. He's like, right after they finished the review, they went and robbed a convenience store.
Before the movie, so we could sneak the candy
yes.
and use the money to pay for the tickets. So when we were talking before this, and you said, like, we were talking about the movies that come out that are, like, the bad movie gauge that other bad movies will be compared to, usually something in January, and we were mentioning Black Christmas, which
I compare everything to Black Christmas.
Exactly. We were saying, like, technically December, but only because it was about Christmas. And we're like, let's be honest.
They would have released in January, if Christmas wasn't in the title.
That's a January movie. Where does, since January has been kind enough to give us 2 horror movies in a row between this and The Grudge, where does this rank on the spectrum of...
It's not as funny.
No, it's not.
But, I don't know, my whole feeling about this movie is that, like... somebody wrote a script in the late 90s, early 2000s, like, the dark age of fucking cinema, especially for, like, monster CG movies. Yeah. And then, for some reason, somebody dug it up, and it's like, okay, let's just make it. We got a couple mil lying around, and we got a few stars, whatever, go ahead and make it. And somebody's just like, I'm gonna make just, like, the next Alien. I'm gonna put all the good acting, I'm gonna put all the effects, all the darkness, all the suspense, all the intensity, but I'm gonna keep this shitty script from the late 90s and early 2000s. So, with the shitty comic relief, with the dumbass lines, with the obvious explaining everything.
Yeah.
But with that said, I mean, it's like... It was intense. It was suspenseful. I thought a lot of the acting, except for one, we'll get to that.
I wonder who that is.
Yeah, right. Was really fucking good.
Yeah.
Especially from...
Kristen Stewart?
Yeah, thank you, Kristen Stewart.
She was good.
Most of her acting I see is very much like underacting a lot of times. I mean, which isn't off. I mean, everyone's banned the Twilight films, but it's like, okay, now they're branching off, doing their own stuff, and like, usually I see her film, she's either just kind of bland or fine, and this is the first one I think I've seen where I'm like, she's good. Like, she's actually legit good with just terrible dialogue and writing, and I can just see these scenes. Can't you just see these scenes done in the late 90s, early 2000s, like in Deep Rising or something like that? But they actually treat it like super serious, and she treats it super serious. So I guess I'm almost on the verge, but of like saying, yeah, like there's a lot of good suspense and drama, not drama, acting, I should say. But it's still every monster movie we've seen. I mean, it's clearly ripping off Alien a lot, even down to the title with the reveal. It's pretty much like the Alien title, just going to underwater.
Her being in her underwear in the last act.
Yeah, I fucking love that. They go to like there's 2 women in this, and one goes up to the other, and it's like, oh, wait, your pants aren't gonna fit in that suit. Here, wear these. I don't even know what they are, like knee pads or something. I don't know what the fuck she gave her, but it's just so they can both walk around their underwear in the last act.
Although it did give us a full-on ass rip underwear shot
TJ Miller.
of TJ Miller.
Thank God.
But this is one of those movies where there's nothing in it that elevates it above 24 other movies that it's like.
The one thing I'll give it, that I was like, okay, like this is a little, there's only a couple movies I've seen do this, kind of as well. I thought the cinematography was legit claustrophobic, and some of the scenes I've thought were actually a little suspenseful because you felt not only how tight they were in those suits, but how tight the walls were and things crumbling down. Then you have to crawl through stuff. The closest thing I could think of, I'm blank. I want to say it's called The Dig, but I don't know if it is.
The Descent?
Yes.
Yeah.
It reminded me a lot of that, though that is done better.
It's partly an underwater version of The Descent. It's also, there was stuff in the 80s and early 90s exactly like this, but a bit more memorable and had more teeth to them, like something like
literally,
yeah, like Leviathan, or this is like a toned down version of something more on the like low B movie level, like Deep Star 6 or something like that. There's even part of this movie that feels like it's one of those scripts where someone would have taken it and tried to shoehorn it into the Cloverfield universe.
You know, I'm glad you said, because at the end, I'm like, well, okay, on top of Alien and Abyss and all these other movies, like, I guess now we have Cloverfield.
Yeah, where there's a bigger monster with little parasitic monsters, and it even has 2 actors from the Cloverfield movies in it.
Is J.J. Miller from?
Yeah, he's the one holding the camera in Cloverfield.
Right. You know, it's so funny because I'm like, God, he reminds me of that asshole from Cloverfield. I'm like, it's the same asshole.
Yeah, and John Gallagher Jr. is in this, who was in the 10 Cloverfield Lane. And so you are right in that it's the actors are treating it serious, and they do
except for one.
except for one, but like they do with what they can with the thin material that they have. Some parts of how the movie looked, I was fine with it when they're in these like kind of collapsing hallways and everything's kind of coming to shit around them. Then in the action scenes, I was finding a lot of it really hard to follow.
There's a lot of shaky cam when somebody's dragged off, like, and it shows who it is. I'm like, oh, is that who it was? Like, like 5 minutes after they were dragged off, you know, kind of thing. So I'm like, yeah, that's not good. There's even one point somebody's holding on to someone else and they're being dragged, and it's like, oh, the pressure's changing too fast. You know, our suits are gonna crack. And I was telling myself, are they going up or down?
I know.
It's like, I think they're going up.
It's one of those movies where characters are PG-13 to death, so it's kind of hard to make heads or tails of what happened to them, and then it kind of has to be explained in dialogue afterwards. There was a lot of scenes, too, where something big would happen, and it would cut to black, and then come back. It happens so much in the movie that after the 5th or 6th time, I was sitting there going, okay, now this is feeling less stylistic and more... You maybe kind of ran out of budget at a few parts in this movie.
We can't show them getting in the ship because we didn't have the... This movie looks expensive. I mean, it's...
Yeah, right, because it doesn't look... The rest of it doesn't look cheap.
No, it's actually one of those movies where I'm kind of shocked it's released in January. Well, I mean... Okay, the type of film it is, it doesn't shock me, but the amount of money they put in, even when I saw, like, oh, it's 20th Century Fox that did this, like, from the trailers, it looked like it might be a Searchlight, you know, a 20th Century Fox Searchlight or something, but, like, when you see it, I mean, the money, for the most part, again, some of the underwater stuff when they're actually in the action is clumsy, but the sets and everything, I mean, look expensive, look legit. Those suits alone were so detailed.
Maybe there's something about this kind of movie that lures a lot of actors and expense to it, despite what's on the script, because this also kind of reminds me of the movie Life that came out a couple of years ago.
Oh, I didn't see that.
It's not that good, but it's got a good cast. Jake Gyllenhaal, Ryan Reynolds, quite a few people are in that movie. That was a better movie than this. This one kind of makes me go, maybe I was a little hard on Life a couple of years ago. Because my biggest issue with this movie is it's purely a script level where no matter the actors and budget that went along with this movie, there's just something about the script that feels very tax write-off. And it's a movie that doesn't waste any time.
Jumps right into it, yeah.
And part of me is sort of like, okay, well, yeah, from the very beginning, within the first minute or two of this movie is when everything in this station starts collapsing. I thought it was going to do one of those things where it cuts to black and goes 2 hours earlier.
Yeah, or she wakes up from a dream or something like that.
Yeah. And part of me was like, okay, I'm glad it didn't go that route. But also, in doing that, it feels like there's like 20 minutes missing from the beginning of this movie, because I know nothing about any character in this movie, and we are just kind of thrown into this disaster movie where it's like if you watched, like, the Poseidon Adventure and the tidal wave hit a minute into the movie. Like, I'm like, I wish I knew more about a lot of these people that you're digging out of the rubble, because I really kind of don't care.
And again, too, this is probably the most I've ever praised Kristen Stewart, but to her credit, the way she acted and the way she delivered these lines, I definitely got like a personality from her, where the others, it's like, I feel like they're working on it, again, with the thin material they're given, and they're trying their hardest with it, but she's the only one where I'm like, okay, I feel like I know this. No, the other one, that I was like, okay, I kind of feel like I know this guy is like the first guy that dies.
I know, because everyone in this movie is like kind of just a type, you know what I mean? Like, you have the lead, who's like our Ellen Ripley, you have the hard-ass captain, you have the chill guy in the Hawaiian shirt, and you have the black guy who's the first one to die in the movie.
Yeah.
And the comic relief.
Yeah, the fucking comic relief. Okay, so T.J. Miller in this movie, I've seen him in, I can't think of what they are, but I know I've seen him in good stuff.
Deadpool movies.
Yeah, but yeah, Deadpool, exactly. But man, when they don't know what to do with him, he is just the most fucking obnoxious. Like, every shot of him in this movie, you know, they're just like, okay, now the camera's on you. You have to do something funny.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you're the comic relief. Like, you can't ever be a fucking person. You always have to say something funny. You have to have a cute little bunny that you carry around, like a toy bunny. And you always have to have a stupid line. And nobody else is going to have a funny line at all. Because you're the fucking Jar Jar of this. Like, you have to just take all the comedy, so nobody else has any other levity or charm or anything they can work off, and now that he has any charm, I just fucking hated him in this movie.
You leaned over to me like 30 minutes into this movie, you were like, I hate him. So I'm of two minds. One, you're right. And two, like, there was part of me that was like, okay, he is the comic relief, so it's like he's trying to sort of elevate what's maybe on the paper badly, don't get me wrong, but like trying to have a personality with this character who we're introduced to just by pulling out of the rubble. I like T.J. Miller. Like, I like his stand-up. I liked him in the Deadpool movies.
He can be a really funny dude, yeah.
He can be good. And yeah, this isn't the first time I've seen him in something like this where they kind of don't know what to do with him and they just have him be T.J. Miller through the movie. A problem with this character in this movie is that way more often than not, his stuff doesn't land. And it doesn't land to the point to where this feels like a character that maybe was not in the first draft of this script, because nothing he does
elevates anything of the story. Nothing moves it forward. No, but again, I'm telling you, think back to those late 90s, early 2000s films. That character was always in there.
Totally.
I'm just like from that standpoint. Even there's a scene at the end that got a legit laugh. God, the only actual maybe funny scene in it, where these characters are fighting over who's going to take the escape pod. They're trying to push the other, you know.
That was
and they're just arguing, and then one just kind of like punches the other, and it's like a good. You feel it, but it's kind of an awkward punch too, and it's like, sorry, and pushes you in. And I'm thinking, like, you know, again, late 90s, early 2000s, it'd be like a boom, oh, and then like, sorry, and pushes you back. It's like, no, they played it like a more modern, you know, like the style of this movie. So it's so bizarre to have all these really old, dumb cliches put in this very modern kind of style of filmmaking with, again, mostly good actors.
There was one point where I thought they were going to go one direction with T.J. Miller's character, because there were a couple of points when it looked like he was going to die, and then
I was so angry when it didn't happen. I was just like, come on.
I know. And like, but when it got to about the second or third time they did that, I was almost thinking in my head, like, okay, are they kind of aware of what they're doing here, where they sort of want us to want him to die, but then he doesn't and keeps coming back?
It's not structured that way.
No, it's not.
I would love that in another horror film. That's a funny idea.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't fly in this horror film anyway. Like
I mean, but his character itself didn't even feel like he should have been, like, I mean, you're right, like, movies like this usually do have some kind of comic relief, like this guy in the movie.
But they're there for a purpose. Like, I'm the computer nerd. I fixed this. But that's because they had to explain everything to him. And I'm thinking to myself, why are you here?
Because, like, you could take out every line he has, and it makes no difference to anything that happens in this movie. Like, he is just there to basically riff the movie within the movie. Everyone else, like, it's like, okay, their characters are really thin, but I'm like, I'm not having a problem buying that they're here. His character is out of a wildly different movie. It's out of, like, a frat boy comedy. And if it did do that, or it's like where the filmmakers are kind of winking, going like, we're gonna keep this guy to the end and just make you think he's gonna die, but at one point, it's like, no, I don't think that's what they were doing, really. Or if they did have that in mind, they didn't commit to it long enough.
No, it is a funny idea. I like the idea. Yeah. Funnier than anything he's given in this movie.
He has we talked about this earlier. He has a scene in this movie, even the way his character is filmed is like a different movie. Like that ass shot.
Every time the camera's on, he has to be chewing gum or blowing a bubble, like petting his little toy bunny. Like when he's getting out of suit, like there's a big hole in his underwear. He's like, oh man, that's ripped. Like, I'm really not kidding. Every single shot, he has to be doing something goofy.
He didn't. I wasn't as pissed watching his character as like you were. But it wasn't a good character, and none of his jokes really landed. The only part of me that was, I wasn't getting mad when he was on screen, really. The only reason being is because again, like I said earlier, I was like, it feels like through these jokes he has, he's trying to bring something of a personality to this character. It doesn't work. It doesn't land, and it feels like it's from something completely different. But I was like, I don't know, at least he's trying or something like that. But I certainly didn't shed a tear when he was out of the movie anymore.
No, and again, to the dude's credit, I mean, like we say, he can be very funny, and I feel like you need like a real fucking comic genius to make these lines funny or improvise something. If any improv was even allowed, I don't know. So
it's weird that he's in this and Ryan Reynolds was in Life, and
they're both in Deadpool.
And both in Deadpool, and both serve the same, because Ryan Reynolds it's bizarre, because Ryan Reynolds had all the jokes, really, in Life, as you'd probably expect. Yeah. Like, he's got all that, but he was really, I thought, underused in Life, whereas DJ Miller might be overused. It's like, there feels like there should be a happy medium between these two characters. I don't know. Like, I sat there watching this movie not thinking that it was a mess like The Grudge last week, and certainly not the catastrophe Black Christmas was. This just felt really forgettable. Like, they had no idea what to do with this movie. We got to put it out at some point. Maybe it can be a tax write-off or something. We just need to get this thing out in theaters, and hey, January. That's just really all this movie felt like to me.
I think I liked it a little bit more, if for anything else, just because I have seen so many of these, monster underwater movies, and they usually are shot so boring, and I don't feel claustrophobic, and half the time I don't even feel like I'm underwater, and I felt this was one of the few where I'm like, well, okay, I mean, it's supposed to be suspenseful here. I'm supposed to feel enclosed. It's supposed to be intense. It's like, and I'm feeling that. Okay, well done. I wish I knew more about these people. I wish they didn't talk like idiots, but but I like that a lot of the actors, like I said, especially Stewart, were trying and giving for the most part good performances. So it's one of those things where I feel like there's a crowd for this movie that's just like, oh, I just want to see exactly this, a movie where people are trapped underwater and they have to get out. And
it's only like 90 minutes.
Yeah, it's fine for that. I think someone can see it and be like, whoo, wow, that was a bit, like people that like, I guess Event Horizon gets a little bit more creative, but yeah. But you know what I mean? Like a movie where you're trapped somewhere and have to get out, but it's not like really deep or meaningful or anything. Like it's not going to leave a long impact. But I know there's people that like this kind of movie. So, I mean, I feel like it's fine for that. But yeah, if you're looking for something really new or like really like scary, it's not really that.
No, it's not. I mean, I thought it got kind of interesting in about the last 15 minutes. Then largely because I could kind of tell what was going on in those action sequences.
See, for me, it's the first 15 minutes. That's funny. Like, first 15 minutes, I thought, weirdly enough, was the most. Even though you're right, it just goes. It just starts.
It does, yeah.
And, again, maybe because they were slowly introducing what this was and how the people know each other. The one guy was even like, so are you a computer person? What are you, an engineer? Like, you suddenly realize, oh, they don't know each other.
Yeah.
So I sort of like you're slowly being told what this place is and how it works and stuff like that. But then when you're told, it's like, oh, it's the same thing that is in every movie, and what's after them is the same monster that's after them in every movie. It's like, oh, well, that's a shame. But I kind of like that reveal.
And that's my problem with this, is like, because I've seen so many of those movies, like, the Descent, Leviathan, all of those, because of that, is why I'm like, there's just so many other things like this that are
done better.
That are better or more entertaining than this movie. I wouldn't say this is one of the worst in that genre, really. It's just kind of there. There's nothing. I wouldn't say there's anything really bad about it, but nothing really all that great. I mean, I could recommend it as like a rental or to pop it up on Netflix or something like that. Because again, it's only 90 minutes long. And if you like this kind of movie, sure. Like, and you've seen things that do this way better.
Is it good if you're flipping through TV and it's on a channel? Leave it on there. Like it's a good one of those.
You might as well, because that's kind of how this movie starts.
Yeah.
As if you've been flipping.
You don't need much background on it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this movie does service that. Like, I mean, would you recommend it as a theatrical thing, or to go see it in theaters, or just waiting?
If you really like movies where you feel claustrophobic, like you like getting that rush, I would say see it on the big screen. Because I did think it was, with the exception of the action sequences, I thought it was pretty well shot. I could, for the most part, make it out, but you felt enclosed, but it was still, visually pleasing enough for me. But only if, like, that's what you're looking for. Aside from that, there's no real reason to.
Just stay home and watch Deep Rising.
Yeah.
That's kind of escaping the monster on jet skis through a cruise ship.
I'm telling you, man, this was written at the exact same time, probably by the same person.
I wish this movie needed a chase through there on jet skis with that monster coming in through the toilet. Well, honestly, also, I know I'm probably going to see worse movies this weekend. I got to see Like a Boss tomorrow. So I'm like, wait, why am I really here complaining about this?
It's going to be the next Spies in Disguise. It's surprisingly really good.
Like a Boss?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Who would have thought?
I'd be hugely surprised by this. Motherless Brooklyn was underwhelming, but oh my God, Like a Boss was great. Well, let's go rob that convenience store.
Let's do it.
We get away with it every time. The same store. All right. Perfect. Thanks for watching. See it.